Hey there, everyone, and welcome to our epic adventure in the Lands of Alaire. I am joined here by my two friends, Tori and Aaron, of Joined by Gaming, my younger brother, Tyler, and my older brother, TJ, as well as a new player, Scott Huntington. Thanks so much for joining us, Scott.
It's a pleasure, thank you.
So, we are back in the Lands of Alaire. My god, it's been some time. I'm wicked happy to be kicking off another season of adventure for you guys to follow. I think it's going to be truly epic. I cannot wait. Let's pretty much jump right into it. So for the recap, last we left off our heroes, Erlon, the half-elf free-roamer, Gilroy, the human wizard, Melee, the human fighter, and Leander, the half-orc paladin, had defeated a rebel uprising in the kingdom of Sarengar, casting down their treacherous leader Vorkin and ending their reign of terror across the land. In doing so, they caught the eye of the imperialistic Farenwellians and their lord, the King of Kings, Devarius Caldenon. With little time to escape due to the surrounding Farenwellian forces, they were entrusted with the protection of Clara, the only known Aasimar to ever exist on the continent of Alaire. And they were tasked with finding and converting members of the legendary Order of Swords from across the kingdoms to their cause. Along with assistance from a high-ranking member of the Midnight Court, Sibelius, as well as the Jarl of Sarengar himself, our heroes fought their way to a reactivated portal powered by ancient and mysterious magics. Placing their trust in the fates, they stepped through this portal, teleporting them and many of their fellow companions to a distant land. So, let's just go on with character introductions to get it out of the way. What does Erlon look like?
Erlon is copper-skinned, long pointy ears for being the half-elf. He also has a fur coat that he kind of keeps open because he actually is covered in the stories of both of his peoples, the elven and the human side, in his tattoos. And then on his back, he has a wound from a direboar accident when he was younger.
Yes, and that is Erlon, the half-wood elf barbarian. Melee.
Melee is a human. She's taller than average, but she wouldn't be considered especially tall with long brown hair. She has plain but sturdy leather armor, a longbow, and she keeps a short sword and dagger on her head.
Longbow, which she uses quite well. And Leander.
A probably, largely built half-orc, wearing this strong plate with a sword and shield. He's got this long, neatly kept black hair, and just a big guy, I suppose.
Sure. And Gilroy.
And Gilroy is the ugly one of the bunch.
So we've determined.
Yes, he's a stout and round human mage who wears a blue-robed hoodie, which has sort of, when we first saw him in the first season, was quite clean and pressed, maybe been through a little bit, but now is singed at the cuff and dirtied at the sort of hip from sliding around underground and stuff. And his beard has grown considerably. It was maybe this length when we first started, and now is a bit longer because he's been months without real civilization.
It's true.
And his hair has started to come in now as well. Previously was shaved. And as you might guess, that was by choice. Now it's begun to come back in to grow in a bit, and he's looking a bit more disheveled than last time.
Of course. And then Scott, your character we will introduce when his time comes. As for our companions, I'll go through the list since you've met so many wonderful adventurers in the first season. We have Zorn, a half-orc with somber blue eyes and a powerful mage at that. Zorn wears rusty red padded armor and carries a cudgel, as well as a heavy-looking leather satchel underneath his left arm, which is his spellbook. Zorn was formerly a slave belonging to Dragonborn in the far southern kingdom of Kalira, but has since freed himself and joined the party's cause. We also have Bilberry, an upbeat and young-looking halfling, wearing dark leather armor with 2 daggers in his belt loop. He stands at about 3 feet 4 inches, and he often goes missing. He wouldn't have it any other way. Bilberry has been wandering, looking for purpose in life, and found it in Zorn and his fallen ally, Olerin, as well as the rest of the party. We have Gentel, a young half-elven woman, wearing a long brown and green cloak on top of leather armor, with a well-crafted bow on her back. She has dirty, long blonde hair and piercing green eyes. Gentel is the party's tireless scout, and one of their staunchest allies. She left her home in the hidden kingdom of Tyanethra in order to dispel assumptions about her family name due to actions taken over 1,000 years ago. Fralthane Half-Ogre, a man of prodigal size. Prodigious. Fralthane is a former pit fighter, against his will. He grew to respect Erlon after numerous bouts. When Erlon struck down Fralthane's master, he devoted himself towards helping the party in any way he can manage, which is usually smashing things with his brutal strength. We have Nonagus, a colleague of Gilroy's from his secret academy, Nalfarin School of the Arcane. Secret. Nonagus Zane is an alchemist first and foremost. However, in his studies, he stumbled across an ancient and latent teleportation circle, and by chance encountered the rest of the party. When our heroes had to leave Sarangard, they made their way back to the circle, which Nonagus was watching over, and ultimately ended up pushing Nonagus through, forcing him to join their journey. We have Arena, a cleric of Torm dressed in glimmering chain, a former member of the legendary Silver Keepers, before they were destroyed a decade ago, and a very close friend of Leander's. Arena specializes in overcoming undead and negative presences, but she has always felt a close connection to the divine. Now she is certain that they have granted her a destiny upon meeting Clara, the Azamar. And finally, Clara, the only known Azamar to ever exist on Alaire. Clara is an anomaly and a mystery. The party only really knows two things about her. She is certainly special, and by no means should she ever fall into the hands of the Farinwellian Empire. You guys ready to kick it off?
Yeah.
Awesome, let's do it. On the path. It takes a few moments for you to regain your senses after your journey through the portal. A strong, cold wind blows about you, though you can feel the warmth of the sun on your back. You are high on a rocky slope. As you make your way to your feet, your vision clearing, you can see numerous peaks and valleys covered in patches of pine trees and blades of long silverish grass, beyond which a body of water twinkles all the way to the horizon. Behind you, taller peaks form a jagged, rising range, until they become capped in snow. Clouds dot the open blue sky, and the sun rises to your east. A single ancient and nearly bare pine tree sits swaying on a boulder to your west, its lithe roots hugging around the dry gray rock and finding its way deep into the gravel. Glancing around, you can see all of your companions made the trip. Zorn, the half-orc mage, sits up slowly and dusts off his dirty, padded armor, and helps Bilberry, the halfling, out of the dirt. Jantel, the wood elf ranger, is already glancing around to make her way to higher ground and take a look around the area, drawing her green hood, all the while glancing about with bright elvish eyes. Arena, the cleric, takes an extra moment on her back and blows her brown hair out that's strewn about her face. Fralthane Half-Ogre is sitting up rubbing his head. His back is pressed against the western boulder. Nonagus seems to be rummaging through his pack, frantically searching for some missing vial, while Clara, the Azamar, takes a seat on a smaller rock facing towards the north, the wind causing the white feathers on her folded wings to flutter slightly. You see that Zorn and Bilberry look like they're finally coming to terms with the loss of Olerin, but both of them definitely have a melancholy face at the moment. Despite the excitement of your adventure thus far, it's notable that they would be looking to help him out of the dirt as well, and he's not there for them to do that. Jantel climbs up on top of the boulder and looks down towards the lake, and she points off and she goes, "It should be about a few hours that way. What do you think?"
What should be?
The lake. I'm guessing that's our fastest way to civilization. Not that we can trust them, but it should be safer that way.
Well, I guess what I'm most happy about is being a good country away from the Farinwellians.
Arena shakes her head as she sits up. I agree. And then she makes her way over to you, Leander, and kind of puts you to the side for a moment. She goes, "We made it. I'm glad. You see what our charge here is, don't you?" Arena reaches out and grabs your hand, looking into your eyes. She goes, "No matter what happens, we have to keep Clara safe. Promise me."
I promise.
Fralthane looks towards you, Erlon. He seems to have his wits about him as he checks over his pack and weapons, making sure he's prepared for the road ahead. He looks down towards you and goes, "Like it here already. Nice and cold."
Yeah, it's nice to just hear the sounds of nature and not fire and
Screaming.
Screaming, yes.
Yeah.
It's nice to be away. Although this is the farthest from home I've ever been.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Frolfane.
Martin took me far and wide, but don't think I've ever been here. Nonagus, after rummaging through his pack, looks up towards you, Gilroy, with a distraught face, and he goes, "This is a mess, Gilroy! Why did you push me through that portal?"
And what? Leave you there for the Inquisitors to find you and the portal?
Good point.
You
It's my intention to make it back to the school as fast as possible, though, and you see he begins shivering and gives off a slight... I'm not particularly well suited to this type of area, this climate.
Yes, that's probably best, Nonagus. Why don't you tell them we'll be there shortly after.
I'll send a message, of course. And he continues rummaging through. Now, where is that vial? Clara seems deep in contemplation. You see her sitting off alone, staring out as the wind blows her hair about, just looking beyond the slopes of this mountain.
Suppose I'll approach her, since I sort of brought her into the fold, as it were.
Very well.
And we've been traveling with her for a while, but we haven't really talked with her yet.
Maylee's going to kind of join him.
All right. So you two approach from behind her, and she sits in silence for a moment before going, "I've been on the run for so long now. I don't really know who I am or where I am. Been locked away in towers and caves and fortresses, and the safety of it all, it never lasts. So before we get moving on, I just want to know, what kind of people are you?"
Well, heroes.
That's what they all say.
Yes, but we're the ones that will keep you safe.
Very well.
Does she have water or anything on
She
her?
doesn't seem. She has her tattered green dress, that of formal design that has been, of course, torn up over the past week or so of running. You offer her something?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, she willingly takes
Rations, water, that sort of
All right.
thing.
Yeah, she'll take a water skin from you and take a quick drink from it, and she goes, "Thank you." What's your name?
Melee.
Melee. She stares down the way. Gentel comes down from off the boulder with nimble steps and goes, "Daylight's burning. I think it's best we make it towards that lake before it gets dark."
Leander leads his horse over to the rock there.
Yes, you have your steed with you atop this mountain. Luckily enough, the plateau cliff face upon which you sit is large enough for him to get up, and he's quite strong.
Yeah.
So the party gets to their feet and follows Gentel's lead. You note Arena's look of care and determination as she watches. She keeps a close watch over Clara, who leaps between the rocks and ledges with incredible grace, occasionally spreading out her wings to glide an extra few feet or make for a softer landing, seemingly finding some enjoyment in her newfound freedom in the least. Zorn, however, seems silent and stoic, leaning into his walking stick as Nonagus continues to mumble about the cold, as well as all of his abandoned notes in the shrine back under the shrine in Sarangar. Frolfane seems entirely enthralled with his new surroundings, while Bilberry seems more than entertained by Frolfane. The group moves slowly at first, as the slope of the mountain is steepest at its peak. In time you gain speed when Gentel seems to find what appears to be a trail often used by elk and goats. Occasionally on your way down, large boulders and cliff faces hinder your movement, which prompt the use of a rope. Why not for fun we warm up with an athletics or acrobatics check, just to see how this trip goes for you?
Everybody?
Yep.
26.
Wow!
Athletics?
Yeah, or acrobatics, whichever is highest.
A 7.
20 from Leander.
13.
Alright, so, Erla, you're kind of making the way forward with Gentel, so you have to test the ground and stuff as you continue along, but it's no difficulty for you, honestly. Every time a rope gets set down, Gilroy seems to be tangled in it, and Melee untangles him, but together, with some teamwork, you all manage to continue on down the mountain. And after about 2 hours of this, you find yourself walking on a much more agreeable angle among many groupings of pine trees, which cause breaks in the harsh wind. Occasionally, a small, fresh stream bubbles across your path, and the birds chirp about, while little mammals skitter across the ground. If you'd like to, throw me a nature or perception check.
I think Gilroy's too busy telling Silas not to eat the voles and field mice.
Squirrels and stuff, yeah.
Get away from them!
What are you guys throwing?
So I put my ear to the ground and kind of rub my hands around like the different moss and things, and I get a 15.
Okay, perfect. The area seems nice and still, quiet as far as your nature perception goes. However, you do know, Erlon, that one of the among the many patches of trees, some of the pines are just shattered and splintered across the ground. Even a large bear, even a dire bear, wouldn't cause this much immediate damage. What about you guys?
I did 13.
Looks like a nice forest.
Yep.
Same with you, Leander?
I was gonna say, just scanning the surroundings.
Alright, give me a second. Perfect. So, at least Jantel leading the way. She walks right past an unassuming looking boulder, but then immediately stops and puts her hand on your chest for a moment, Erlon, and goes, "Look at that. Do you see?" And it sits in a slight crater and appears to have been split in two by the impact, but around its base you can see a band of carved runes, which appear to be giantish. And Erlon, as you gaze upon them, the runes seem to shift, and suddenly they make sense. You can read this. You understand that it says, "For you, enemies of our everlasting Father."
Pick it up.
Alright,
Yeah.
It's hefty. You can pick it up with your stout body, but it's a giant's boulder. So,
Wow.
giving it a full look over. Yeah, for once, you're a little enthralled by the fact that you can just read this. This isn't a language that you've necessarily studied,
No, not at all.
but,
So-
So you know that is the words upon the boulder. For you, enemies of our everlasting Father.
I think Maylee's gonna ask him, "What are you doing?"
This is written in giant. I normally can't read it, but the words shifted in front of me, and it says, "For the enemies of our Father," right?
Everlasting
Father.
Yes.
For the enemies of our everlasting Father. And it looks to be, I would assume, what caused the destruction in this area. And I point around to all the splintered trees.
And now you note that among these pine trees are many fallen and splintered ones, yeah. Chantel nods her head and she goes, "Giant kind. That's dangerous. Let's stick in a tight group, and if you see any big movement, let's all be ready." You continue following your path, about 2/3 of the way down the mountain, and you can see what appears to be yet another very large boulder, this time made of dark metal, positioned above a smaller cliff face. Upon closer inspection, you realize the boulder is actually the remains of a fire giant rolled over on his side, a huge dent in his thick helmet, underneath which skeletal remains peer out towards the north with empty eye sockets. A 10-foot greatsword sits leaning on a nearby cliff face, its tip buried into the ground, and a small red banner worth of cloth waving about on its hilt.
Curious.
Yeah, definitely try to climb up and examine it if I
Sure,
can.
yeah. You can move your way up on the cliff face. It's easy enough with the natural handholds that it provides with this rocky mountain. And you can see that the banner has yellowish paint on it, which has giant script, which once again, you have to look at it for a good 10 seconds, but it shifts and refocuses into a means that you can understand. And this one reads, "Eithgard, son of Draedorleon, Lord of the Sunforge." It seems to denote who this sword belonged to. And he appears to be the son of some fire giant lord. Long slain in having sat here.
Maylee's gonna ask Gilroy, "Can you tell if there's any magic or anything on that where Erlon can read that?" And
Giants and
just
magic.
kinda check it out.
Of course there is. No, 21.
21 Arcana?
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be anything particularly magical about the script, nor the armor or material. Erlon just seems to have a new ability in this.
What a ridiculous idea! No, that is quite interesting, Erlon.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised myself.
Well, keep me apprised of any further developments. I'm quite interested in your new abilities.
I will. I'm feeling a little out of my depth, especially leaving home, so I'll definitely keep you updated.
You make your way down the final slope as mid-afternoon approaches. The terrain below is much flatter, and the pines grow far denser as you enter the forest line. The forest floor is well lit by the overhead sun, and foliage grows about, ferns and bushes that brush your legs as you make your way past. The grass is a bit greener and the air is fresh. The group stops for a moment beside a shallow brook that runs through a rocky ravine, taking a short break to refill their water skins, as well as take a breather. Giantel takes a moment to wash her face. He goes, "It shouldn't be long now, maybe another hour or two before we reach the lakeside. From there, civilization of some sort and hopefully some safety." She makes her way over towards you, Melee, and though her face is constantly one of determination, she looks at the bow on your back and goes, "When was the last time you got a new bow, Melee?
It's been a while.
We'll have to find something for you. Such an esteemed archer." She gives a little laugh as she makes her way around the ravine just to check the terrain and stuff. Clara, refilling her new water skin, turns towards Arena and excitedly exclaims, "I've never seen a giant before." Arena just looks stressed at the idea.
Bigger than I thought.
Arena shakes her head and Clara goes, "Yeah, that one looked like it must have been 19, 20 feet tall. If it was ever standing. I wonder how long ago it fell."
Yes, and I wonder if they were fighting. That must have been a sight. I give Arena like a slap on the back.
Yes, of course. I can only imagine the battles they have. At least we can take comfort in the fact that we should be able to hear them before we see them.
I look to give Nonagus a glance at the conversation of giants are giant.
Nonagus gives a little snort like, teacher. Bilberry takes a seat on a nearby log and begins to share some of his food with Frolthane. They begin to chat about their past, seemingly the halfling's primary method of making new friends. Just as he had met you before in the forward camp. Frolthane seems happy to finally be free, and Bilberry is just happy to be alive thus far. Zorn takes a moment to sit down on a stump, opens his spellbook. He looks over towards Gilroy and goes, "How have your studies progressed, Gilroy?"
Well, not as rapidly as I would have hoped, given that the events that have been occurring. But I do manage a couple hours a night. Mostly brushing up on things I should have locked down by now, and, I find a new trick here and there.
Yes, I haven't had much time to study up on the work of other wizards these days.
Yes, they've been few and far between, being so far from home. Also, Sarengar, not known for its academic institutions, is it?
No. No, not at all. You do manage to get a slight grin out of him, despite his generally melancholy disposition at the moment. And he goes, "I do look forward to the quiet days, copying down the script and works of other mages. It's interesting. You get true insight into a mage's life through their spellbook, their skills and weaknesses." And as he flips through, you see everything he has is evocation. It's all just in the practice of destroying things. Every script he has lightning bolt, fireball, firebolt. Like, it's just list after list of things to blow stuff up.
Right. Yes. Yes, it seems so. I like to keep a more, balanced study, but I am lacking in certain Regards, for sure.
We'll keep an eye out for you.
That'd be much appreciated. I'm always looking for a new spell or something to add to my repertoire.
Everyone throw me a perception. Oh, I like those nice quiet rolls. Enjoy that this season. Anyone get above a 20?
No.
You miss it. In a flash, Chantel jumps to her feet, drawing her bow and reaching for one of her arrows in her quiver. She goes, "Shh! Do you hear that?" And after a moment you do, through the noises of the forest and the wind, and in the trees, you can make out a slight squeaking sound, the turning of wagon wheels, the clip-clop of approaching hooves, as well as some manner of conversation. Chantel stays still, and after a few more moments it becomes much more clear. "I'm telling you, Jar, Waterwheel is nothing like it's nothing less than a madhouse. You got ogres keeping the peace and hobgoblins drinking alongside dwarves, halflings digging out their homes with a clan of goblins for neighbors. There's no end to monsters in old Karadmoren, of course. I mean, no offense. But by the soul of dear Huronin, you'd never think we'd end up just inviting them in the wall and having them work alongside us." Chantel, listening to this manner of conversation, begins to creep through the underbrush along the far side of the ravine, approaching the incoming noise. The voice continues. It's that of an older dwarf. Is anyone going to follow Chantel?
No, but I am going to. I will call out to Clara.
Okay.
And as she turns to look at me, my rope is standing on end next to me, and I tell her, "Get up there.
What?
We can't have you being seen."
Fine. She makes her way over and slowly begins to make her way up the rope.
Now bring the rope up.
What?
Please!
Is it really safe in here?
Oh, 100%, yes.
Fine. She begins to tug the rope on up. Arena, looking up at her, gives you a slight nod, Gilroy, in acknowledgement that that's probably the best move right now.
Yes.
I'm following.
Yes, what'd you throw for stealth?
17.
Pretty quiet. You feel like you're not making too much noise. However, Jar, you do hear some snapping in the distance. The approach of something in the woods. Your dwarvish companion continues to speak, going, "Speaking of which, the map here says this is Fire Giant territory, King Dreydorleon's lot. Nasty bunch of red-eyed nitwits they are. If we make our way through this bit, we're just about there, and we can enjoy a nice cold brew at Rotbeard's, given the little bastard's still breathing."
I'm gonna have an arrow ready.
Okay.
Limrod, be quiet. Don't think it's a fire giant, but I hear something.
And as you and Chantel approach, you peer through the pines and see a meandering dirt path upon which a single mule-drawn cart slowly rolls from the east, bumping its from side to side as it traverses the uneven road. The cart's driver, a stout older dwarf wearing a brim hat, has one discolored eye and a very long gray beard, seems entirely preoccupied with continuing to speak with the only other figure traveling alongside him, Jar. And what does Jar look like?
Jar is a half drow.
Yep.
He has white hair, dusky skin, looks a bit taller than your average half elf, but looks very thin, looks more elven than half elven, but you can tell by the dusky skin that he's not fully drow.
Yeah, he's part drow.
Yeah.
All right. Upon your forewarning, and Limrod, the dwarf, gazing in, looking beyond his brimmed hat, the cart comes to a stop. The dwarf takes off his hat, throws up his hands, and with a look of resignation, looks down towards you, Gerard, and he goes, "Well, this is it. Damn giants. Never thought it would end this way." Chantel makes her way into the road, seeing that Jar is aware of your approach. She, upon seeing you being half drow, has an arrow knocked, not drawn back, and is staring right at you, Jar.
And I see her now?
Yeah, they make their way, Melee and Chantel.
I also am Have my arrow.
Two bows are drawn right towards you.
By Amazonian women. Like,
Well met, travelers, hunters, but I am no deer, or goat, or anything good to eat.
Chantel growls a little bit and goes, you look like something I might want dead. A immediate just feeling of anger and hatred comes across from her voice.
Oh, you're so unfriendly. We've only just met. We haven't even met properly yet.
True enough.
I am Jar. This is my friend Limrolt.
And it is at this moment that Frolthane comes bursting out from the tree line, goes with his sword drawn, then seeing that it doesn't look like combat's going, he goes, I'm Frolthane. Limrolt looks up at Frolthane and begins trembling. He seems convinced that Frolthane is a giant.
Are they perhaps from Waterwheel?
I'm not thinking so. You look lost. You lost?
I think I'm just gonna kind of turn to Chantel and be like, maybe just be on our way. Just kind of.
Chantel gives you a nod, like she agrees. You guys hear Frolthane make his announcement. There's no surprise to this anymore.
Gilroy comes crashing out and says, yes, we're lost! Please!
Leander, quick on Gilroy's heels, hand on his sword hilt. Anywhere but this damn forest we've been traveling through.
Erlon comes running out, but he's like, Frolthane, you have to be more careful than that.
What is this? Is this a circus?
This is ridiculous.
More and more every day.
Arena comes walking up along as well. The rope trick, does that stay in one spot?
Yeah.
So you'll have to return to it.
Yeah, I'll have to go back there at some point.
Limrolt, the dwarf, he gives you an introduction, a small bow, even though he doesn't get off of his seat from the driver's position of his cart. And he goes, you lot seem particularly capable. Why don't you join us to Waterwheel? There's nothing else for 100 miles around here.
Guess it's our only choice.
And it looks like you could use more clothes.
I just look at my open coat. I think I'm warm enough already. Do I recognize what a drow is?
Yeah,
Or like, do I?
at least in story, you would know of their
Okay.
existence, yeah. The cart, you know, is filled with animal hides and colorful feathers of exotic birds, which are strung up along its side. The lone mule pulling it seems entirely content to hit every damn rock and bump in the road, much to the chagrin of Limrolt the dwarf. And he kicks it into high gear as he begins to make his way down, and looks down towards you guys as he makes his way past, and he goes, Waterwheel's this way. Best be coming along.
I'm gonna look to Gilroy. Sorry. He doesn't know we're missing someone, but...
Oh, yes, of course.
You go down to
Go
the
get her. Yes. Yeah, and I guess Zorn, Bilberry, too.
Yeah, they were hanging back. Bilberry was actually in the tree line at the ready, like a rogue. Zorn was further back, staying near where you had left Clara.
So, I'm just personally not very familiar with what the Azamar would look like. How apparent are her wings, or could like a coat cover
A
that
coat
up?
could cover them. They fold up quite well on her back. Otherwise, blue skin and really bluish hair as well. Black, actually, she has black hair, really particularly deep black, and blue eyes. Otherwise, a human with angel wings.
We can, the blue skin, that's Nonagus. He did that.
Yes, and we can at least try and
Right, cover her.
try a little bit.
Yes. Alright, come down.
What? Is it safe?
For now.
Alright.
Thanks to me.
Heroes. Of course. She makes her way down the rope. Nonagus and Zorn, who were talking with each other for a moment, stand up and make their way to the road. And you guys begin to travel west along the path, joining Jar and Limrolt. Through the northern tree line, you can see an endless coast of this great lake. Rows and rows of small waves lap up along the earthy beach. Limralt's constant rambling fills the air around you, as he seems rather discontent with any semblance of silence. See, I made my way from Old Town down by Ellenbeer. There are no places full of elves these days, since Clan Molnar all but abandoned their honor and their name. But Waterwheel, on the other hand, still pays good coin for my goods, and rightly so, given my skills as a plucker. So long as Miss Mayor Benevel lets me through the gates. Last time I got in a tussle with a damn dim-witted Etten down by Rotbeards, who figured if I owed him a drink, I owed him 2 drinks.
Oh, that seems like such a terrible situation.
Oh, it's the worst, Jar. It's absolutely atrocious. And with you for a traveling partner...
I am not that bad.
I think Leander's mouth is just agape, glancing at the two talking, kind of trying to discern if they're, like, just joking around, like, you know, yeah, there was an Enten I got in a fight with, and, you know, there's goblins building houses with the halflings and stuff.
They seem entirely serious.
Yeah, and that is kind of what has Leander dumbfounded. Yes.
It's like no civilization you've ever heard of.
Yeah.
I'll say to some of the party members who are willing to listen, I guess, you know, the previous party members,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's weird. These guys seem so far removed from what we just went through. Goblins and Ettins and all living together.
And with as much as he rambles, I'm surprised that there's no talk of Sarengar.
Maybe word hasn't reached it. We did move much quicker than...
Or maybe word has been halted. We better be wary.
That seems likely. Yes, what's the story then?
Limralt is going to attempt to overhear him.
Okay.
He did pretty well with a 22. So he actually turns back, stopping his conversation with Jar for a moment, and goes, Zargar, well, last I heard over that way, there's a bunch of Farinwellian nitwits, and they gathered up all around a old town called Frostpoint, and they're a bit further east of this way. Haven't really come out into the woods. Karadmoren's notoriously tough on armies of that sort. They tend to make their way up here with some dreams of conquest and get smashed by giants or hobgoblins or drow, or he just lists off a list of terrible creatures that seem to live in this region. And throughout that, you continue traveling through the afternoon and deep into the evening, emerging from the forest into wide, rolling, grassy fields as your path curves towards the northwest, generally about 100 feet from the coast of the Great Lake at any given time. The sun begins to set in front of you. Past a sea of grassy taiga, it slowly lowers to a range of high-reaching, thin mountains, many of which look like fingers. As you watch, the shadows begin to slowly reach across the land until they finally stretch across your path. The dimmer white light of the full moon begins to bathe the taller grass in silver. Limralt fumbles to light an oil lantern and hangs it beside him in his cart, casting a flickering yellow light across your path. There should be a little plateau up ahead, a knoll where we can rest for the night. And by tomorrow morning, we should all be drinking away at Rotbeards.
Oh, I can't drink that rat gut.
Yeah, notoriously syrupy, his brew, but I love it.
Yes, it shouldn't be thick. Beer should never be thick.
As the stars begin to appear, you see off the path a rise in the terrain, a small, roundish hill with steep 10-foot precipices. Atop the hill sits a single, large birch tree, its white bark nearly glowing in the moonlight. The path you follow branches off towards the plateau and up along its side, permitting Limralt and his cart an easy enough means to the top. The rest of the group follows his lead, and it appears there is ample room for everyone to set up tents, start a low fire, and settle down. From atop the hill, you can see fields and occasional pines to your south, the ever so slightly more defined, tall and spindly mountains off to your west, the path onwards and the coast of the Great Lake to your north, and the path that you had taken priorly to your east. As you guys set up camp, you can throw me a nature investigation, including you, Jar. Welcome to the party. What'd you get?
22.
Is that a natural 20?
It's my second natural 20 this game.
What? Awesome.
Just keep track.
I am keeping a tally.
Sweet deal.
10.
Okay.
13.
All right.
16.
All right.
14.
Okay. So, Leander, you glance about and you see that near the bottom of the hill, there has certainly been some giant activity near this plateau. However, not atop it. Large footprints in the nearby earth just off the hill, trees torn straight out of the ground, which you notice looking off into the kind of distance, those patches of pine trees. You can see they've been torn straight out with large clumps of earth still connected to the roots. The occasional boulder sits in the grassy fields, buried halfway in the ground due to the impact of a giant's toss. And there are remnants of prior humanoid camps that have been set up here in the past as well on this plateau. The moment her tent is set up, Clara retires for the evening, going into her tent. And the day seemed to be a far longer walk than she's accustomed to. Not exactly an adventurer. Arena lays down her bedroll just near the fire, right outside of Clara's tent. And as she lays down for a moment, she looks up towards you, Leander, and goes, it's a pretty decent first day.
Much better than I expected, really.
What do you think of our new companions?
I don't expect much of them yet, I suppose.
No.
But at least they're getting us somewhere.
And once again, she kind of whispers to you and goes, no matter what, Clara is the priority.
To the death. And I think Leander he was going to lay down his bedroll in much the same spot.
Yeah,
as her.
very similar position. That's fine. Limrel stays near the fire as well and feeds his donkey. He begins to speak of Clan Molnar, the founders of Karadmoren, and the legends of Huronen Molnar, this just figurehead for the kingdom, the example dwarf. And he rambles he can go on for an hour or two on when Clan Molnar finally faced Kaxka the Sunderer, that blasted hobgoblin, and as he came stabbing on through Lakeview's stronghold, and all seemed lost, the women and the children kept up in the very back halls, Huronen Molnar stepped up, and with his mighty golden hammer, cast down Kaxka, and caused the hobgoblins to go running back into the hills, and he just constantly, with this same fervor, he tells these stories.
Do you think this is how all dwarves in Karadmoren are?
Seems par for the course based on that troop we met. Oh God, some time ago now.
Zorn, Bilberry, and Frolfane each enjoy a drink from an exotic-looking bottle that Bilberry produces from his pack. And they look towards you, Erlon, and you, Melee, and invite you over to have a drink.
Yeah.
Take a seat. And as Bilberry hands the bottle up to you, Melee, he goes, this is Zaid and rum. You remember that boat ride we took when we were going towards River's End?
Yes.
Those folks were former pirates. And I felt like if they felt fine stealing from all of those people, then I should feel fine stealing a drink from them.
They weren't the best people, so I'm just gonna kind of hold it up like cheers and have a drink.
Yeah,
and
have a
pass
swig
it
of
to
it.
Erlon.
All right. Zorn, cheering up a little bit after having his belly warmed by a drink, looks towards you, Erlon, and goes, take a drink for killing Vorkin. That bastard. I was glad to see you take him down.
Yes, I'm glad he's gone. It's for the best. Let's all drink to that. It was a shared victory.
Yeah, agreed. And the bottle goes around, but they expect a big chug out of you.
And overhearing the dwarf, I tell the group too. Think Wilby talked about it stories like that from what we've done?
You already have a song.
That's true. We already have a song commissioned.
Well, I kind of hope so.
A glimmer of hope in Gilroy's eyes.
Doesn't that make things difficult with your school if you were to become more well-known?
Yes, they might not look kindly upon that, but
We're more fun anyway.
well, it's more in that, what's good for one of Nelferon's students is good for all of them.
Before retiring for the night, Nonagus, who is overhearing this conversation, brews a minty-looking, smelling drink to help with the slight cough he's been developing. He sips away at that and listens into your two talking about Nelfarans and gives a slight nod and says to Gilroy, "Well, if the walking is done for today, I think I'm going to retire for the evening. Make sure no giants smash my brains in while I sleep, Gilroy."
Yes, I think that's the least I could do for you.
And he enters a small tent that he settled up with very little proficiency. Chantal gathers firewood, silently making her way off the plateau into some nearby pines every so often, seemingly having no intention of resting. Throw me everyone but Jar, throw me a perception. Jar, actually, throw me a 2.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyone get above a 20? I know you're
Yes.
particularly perceptive.
Yes, 24.
So every time Chantel brings a bundle of tinder back for a bundle of firewood back to continue bolstering the fire, you can see as she lays them down, she peers over towards you, Jar, constantly just giving you a glance with no kindness.
I think after spending some time setting up my tent, I realize I probably won't get much studying done, as it were. It's not going to be a very academic night. So I'll look to Jar and get a real good sense of him. I probably haven't given him much attention yet.
Sure.
And pose the question. Just basically say, "What's your deal, man?"
Oh, as in, what do you mean by what is my deal?
Well, what are you doing out here with this dwarf?
Oh, we are traveling together to Waterwheel. I am a broker of information and procurer of fine goods for discerning clientele.
Is that right?
Well, that's what he always says. He goes liberal. I've yet to see it.
And you're studied then?
To a degree, yes. I am not great with magics, but I am well versed in history.
Did you attend somewhere, or?
I have studied about libraries of sorts.
Yes. Oh.
Gilroy wants to shit on your school.
Not directly, but
Some passing comments.
What, pray tell, is your deal, sir?
fair enough. Yes, well, I search for exceptional people. That's how I've gathered this wonderful crew about me.
Frolthane in the background is chugging what is left of the rum and smashes the bottle on the ground.
Like him, of course. Good in a fight.
So
Not
it is-
great in much else, but good in a fight.
So it is Roy and his traveling menagerie.
Gilroy, yes.
Roy sounds better.
I would not say it's my party. Really, the leader is Leander. But I think I hold it all together to some degree.
So you have the eye for talent.
Yes, that's why I was sent out.
Arena has a slight smirk and blush when you say that Leander is the leader and looks over towards him.
Gilbert, can I just ask, out of curiosity, are you wearing the ring of hide alignment?
Yeah, oh yeah.
What are you lawful good right now? I'm assuming, or
Oh, do I get to choose what alignment it shows?
You actually show up as unaligned if someone were to attempt to detect it.
Right, so, which is not great, I guess, but
that's just Leander's curiosity. I don't know if like.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and I think Leander
I think that's fair to say about Gilroy, though.
On the line?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Leander, probably throughout the journey, has seemed a little bit different, sort of piggybacking on what Gilroy had said in the very beginning. I think he looks more driven than before.
Sure.
Like he has...
There's some purpose right beside you.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yep. But I think he probably snaps out of a slight sleep at the mention of his name,
Oh yeah.
and sits up quickly, looking around at the mention of.
So why does your scout get around with your leader, pretty boy, and not like me so much? You keep giving me dirty eye.
Just curious. I haven't seen her give that to anybody else.
Chantel unloads another bundle of firewood and takes a seat, and she gives it a poke, causing some embers to spark up. She goes, "It's because of my last name, Duskrin. Ages ago, a Duskrin allied himself with Drow and ended up assassinating a very important political figure in Elenvir. This cascaded into a great amount of events, which caused the mass exodus of elves all the way to the now hidden kingdom of Tyanethra, my home, which I've self-exiled from. He reminds me of that heritage."
Oh, I'm more like you than you would think. And to the drow, I'm Iblis. I'm excrement. I'm shit. They don't care for me. My father was drow. My mother was human. I was slave. I was freed. I'm here.
In some ways, I suppose we can relate then. And the wind blows. The night goes and progresses quietly. The moon rises higher in the sky, and the tall grass undulates in the breeze. Throw me a perception check, everyone. I know we're doing this a lot, but there's a lot to see.
I was gonna say, we're in a new place.
Right.
Nat 20.
Nice.
Oh, Erlon is sound asleep.
Maybe true.
Oh wow.
Some of you will be dozing off. That's naturally, you'll wake up to keep a little watch, or you'll doze off. Who got above a 20 other than Leander? Anyone?
Just missed.
Oh.
Just missed.
Leander, upon sitting up from hearing your name, you glance around the plateau, just giving a quick scout about, and you do see a small wagon making its way south from the northern side of the road, the area that you had not traveled yet, before diverting to the hill. It moves slowly and quietly along, and you can see a few small figures with torches marching alongside.
I think glancing around the sort of calm, some sleeping
Oh, yeah.
party, he tries to get up quietly and moves. Is there a spot I can move to where I'm still kind of in our camp area, but closer to the road?
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, so you make your way. You're gonna go down the plateau a little and
A little
towards the
bit.
road. Okay. So you can see that there's 5 or 6 goblins making their way along, but their cart looks very commercial, like they're traveling salesmen of sorts, and they may be a little more agreeable to speak with than your average goblin, you assume, if anyone was intrigued in seeing what they're up to.
Does it look like they have any intent of stopping at the camp?
No, but they're going pretty slow.
Like they take a while to pass by, so they probably
exactly.
notice
You can
something.
hear them, and you can glance away and look back. They haven't made it too far.
I think I'll wait at the side of the road for them to...
Okay, so you make your way on up to the side of the road?
Yeah.
The lead goblin runs on forward and gives a slight little weird goblinish hop once he gets to you to stop, and puts his torch up in your face for a second, and then gives a nod and goes, "Grimshank clan, at your service. You in need of potions, oils?"
Well, first of all, I am Leander, and can't say I've ever met a goblin like you, besides in a cave once or twice.
Well, our clan is well respected among goblin kind here. Good brewers, not afraid to die drinking poison.
I think Leander puts a hand on his sword, but sure, show me what you have.
Oh, good, good. And he runs on over to his goblins, You guys can all
I was gonna
witness
say,
this. Yeah.
at this point, I was probably like, I was gonna say Melee. I was gonna call Melee up so that she could.
Anyone else gonna just join before they purvey their goods?
Yeah.
All right. So essentially, the goblin walks on up and they pull out a large staff from the side of the wagon and give the side of the wagon a smack, which opens it on up, revealing that the inside has a good many rows of various vials and tinctures. And essentially, what they have for sale is fire, cold, and lightning oils, which you may be familiar with. They add 1d8 fire, cold, or lightning damage for 10 rounds. They cost 400 gold pieces apiece. They have potions of stone skin, as the spell stone skin gives you resistance to slashing, piercing, and bludgeoning damage, non-magical damage. Those are 500 gold apiece, and potions of greater healing, 44 plus 4 HP, for 500 gold apiece. Many of those are calling out to you.
So we have, I have 9,300 gold here. I think that was the party's
Yeah.
lot, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
From winning some fights towards the end of season 1. So, I mean, do we want to just, like, spend it freely? Or would you rather?
Some healing potions.
I was gonna say the
so
healing
why
potions
not?
sound pretty good.
Unless there's like a really big purchase, I think everyone's pretty good to
Right.
just get whatever.
Keep the party stocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. How much were the healing potions?
500 GP apiece. They are potions of greater healing.
Maybe like 6. That's a
3,000 in
lot,
that.
but-
It's a lot of good healing,
One
too.
for most of.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll take 6.
All right.
And then
That's their whole stock, by the way.
That makes sense. I was gonna say, I'm sure the goblins will be happy to.
Oh,
have
they're
to-
elated because they begin going off about how, oh, well, it's only a day from water wheel and we're making our money back. Oh, good to come across you and not giants.
See, you're new here and already making friends. Very good. You'll fit right in.
Keep an eye on Frothanes, just because I'm not sure how he would react to more monstrous beings.
He's following your lead.
Yeah.
He's taking everything. Every time something new emerges, he glances towards you, Roland, looks for your reaction, and then reacts in a similar way.
how much healing does that do?
44 plus 4. And then, any oils or potions of stone skin? They have 2 potions of stone skin and 3 of each oil.
I'd kind of like a potion of stone skin.
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
500 gold.
Okay. I'll just use my personal.
Anything else?
What were the other oils?
We had a fire, cold, and lightning.
I want 2 of the fire.
Okay, 800. 1d8 fire damage for 10 rounds. And so once you finish your business with the goblins, they pack up with many bows and hops and thank yous and begin their way, continuing along the path which you had traveled, going towards the coast of the Great Lake. Another few hours... Oh, unless... Would you like anything, Jar? Or?
No, no.
Just making sure. Another few hours pass, and the sky above you fills with stars. Jantel permits the fire to burn lower, as most of the group lies down until morning. Suddenly, a sound breaks through the air. Like thunder, a low rumbling. Then the earth begins to shake, and some smaller rocks tumble down the hillside. The low embers of the fire begin to produce sparks, which burst up into the air. About 200 feet down the way, a group of 9 or 10 huge, shadowy figures bursts forth from the trees, bending and snapping them with incredible force, as well as a great cracking and snapping sound. They stand a little over 20 feet tall, wearing massive iron bands for armor. They have gray skin, bluish gray skin, long white beards. On their backs they carry giant-sized long swords and battle axes, as well as entire elk and bushy-haired cattle, which are strewn up on thick ropes. Though they seem to have taken no note of you, and their trajectory doesn't meet the hill from which you observe on, Jantel quickly smothers the fire with her cloak, and your position goes dark as the giants meander past. Listening in, throw me a perception check.
Nice. Wow, that's gonna be
All right,
crazy.
finally. 18.
28.
Natural 20, by the way.
Yeah.
Anyone else above or around day 20?
21.
All right. So Jar, Gilroy, Erlon, you can hear the slightest bit of grumbling, low speech between the giants, and one goes, "Rumgarat Unmaug," which you hear, Erlon, as "the lightning gate is bad," or dishonorable. Roughly translated.
All right.
The lightning gate?
Yes.
No clue what that will mean.
I just look to Gilroy and I repeat that to him. Like, the lightning gate is dishonorable. Whatever that means.
Wait, you mean you could understand them?
Again, I'm just as much of a loss as you are.
So he's never studied, giant?
No, not to our knowledge. Unless he's really been keeping something from us, but I've known him to be quite blunt. Well, that's both curious in the fact that you can understand them, and the message.
I agree. I don't know if it's some kind of... Why would they be telling each other riddles?
Can I roll history?
Sure.
That's a 12.
Yeah,
You never heard of a lightning gate in this
you
area.
might have done.
Might I have?
You may very well have, Jar.
Okay. That's a 9, no.
Maybe something to do with Waterwheel? That place is really new. You know that for sure. The settlement itself was only established about a decade ago, so you can't even find it on most maps. The giants, with thunderous footsteps, continue along across the grassy fields and then break into the forest line which you had left, seemingly heading towards the Fire Giants' territory to continue their long-waged war. The rest of the night passes with no disturbances, and as morning arrives, Limrolt emerges from his tent and begins to hitch his donkey to his cart. "All right, all you. Time to get up and get moving."
Great.
With few words, the entirety of the group is back on the northwestern road, and for the next 2 hours you maintain a good pace, making your way along the lakeside. You pass by a few traveling merchants and roaming wagons, sometimes crewed by dwarves, other times hobgoblins, and other various humanoids. Then the path grows into a wider road, curving more westward, away from the lakeside, for some time following one of its many inlets, a wide, clear river. Your path leads you slightly uphill, until you come to a sudden drop-off, revealing a valley on the far side of which sits a rocky mountain. Let me show you what you see.
When I thought Karadmoren, I did not envision goblins and other monstrous beings.
So, what you see before you is the settlement of Waterwheel.
It's huge. I see why they call it Waterwheel.
Yes. Nestled into this mountain is a set of thick stone walls which protect a large settlement of faded tile-roofed buildings. Running down this mountain is a waterfall, which pools and forms a sizable river. This river cuts directly through the center of the settlement and forces along a series of gargantuan water wheels before flowing out of the city beneath the walls through a large grate and then into the valley and surrounding farmland. However, as your eyes are drawn away from the river, you notice another peculiar feature. Huge, shining steel orbs stand atop logs all along the walls, and on the northern end, they spark and flicker with bolts of electricity, which arcs and jumps between them erratically, nearly 10 feet in the air above the tall ramparts. Limralt's face lights up at the sight. "Well, it's been a rough past few weeks, but looks like we finally made it, Jar. Follow me to some drink and relaxation, friends."
Lead the way as long as you can get us in.
Right. Well, we'll see about that. And as you approach, first making your way down into the valley, and beyond various farms with fields of cabbage and potatoes and other crops, and then across a river, over a very recently constructed looking stone bridge, you can see the remains of a frost giant near the northern wall. being removed by a team of about 20 workers and a few beasts of burden, oxen, cattle, mules, and whatnot. Its right arm is burnt black and still smoking. Some of its fingers are practically glowing embers, and red scars travel all the way up his body to the right side of his face in total contrast with his pale skin. No doubt a victim of the Lightning Gate. It's early afternoon by the time you reach the front gates of Waterwheel. Standing guard are two particularly fat and sluggish-looking ogres, each about 9.5 feet tall, with furs around their waist and sizable spiked clubs in their hands. Upon noticing the party's approach, one walks up to you, and to your surprise, gives a slight bow. He clears his throat and addresses you all. Welcome to Waterwheel! You can all go inside. Get your weapons sharpened, have a drink. But please don't cause any trouble. Him, on the other hand. The ogre points towards Limrold, beside you, Shar. He's not allowed in here no more, given what he did to poor Roylin and Gibbons. Limrold looks aghast at this statement, stammering for a moment before he responds. Surely you're bluffing. What in Morden's name have Roylin and Gibbons ever done for this place anyway? The ogre smiles and responds, Crush annoying little dwarves like you. Now poor Roylin can't see out his left eye, and Gibbons has to listen to him complain about it all day. Limrold turns towards the rest of you. Looking for help, he pleads, You need me in there. I'll make myself useful. You see, I know people. Please, lend a hand to old Limrold here.
Well, what did you do?
Like I said, I got in a tussle with that damn Detton, and, well, I knocked one of his eyes in.
Oh, jeez. Alright.
I didn't think he was a respected member of the community.
No, it's nothing worse than what Bilberry has done.
Bilberry goes, yeah, that's true. The ogre looks down toward you and goes, Alright, well, really there's only two types we're not allowed to let in. Clan Molnar and the Spider King's crew. So, 1,000 gold restitution ought to do it. Limrold shows he has empty pockets.
Limrold. You will owe me for this.
I'll remember it, friend. Truly I will.
Alright, you better pay me back someday.
If I could ever make 1,000 gold, I'm sure it'll go to you first.
Alright, you make sure of this.
You hand the ogre 1,000 gold?
Yeah,
Alright.
part of half of my gold.
Yep.
much lighter purse.
Yep. He gives a nod as he weighs it out, and he goes, Alright. That'll do. Enjoy your stay.
Well, I hope to.
You pass underneath the stone walls and into the northern side of the settlement. The scent of ozone immediately hits you, however, within moments you are accustomed to it. What does continuously disrupt you, however, is the sudden flashes and thunderous roars when the orbs along the rampart spark to life, though the occurrence seems to be becoming less and less frequent. The streets about you are impressively clean, and though you'd expect no less of dwarvish construction, the stonework of the walls and buildings nearby seems particularly precise, each block cut with the care of a master. The building immediately in front of you, which would be, I'll give a little ping, would be this one. You guys see that?
Nope.
Right above that.
Yeah. Oh, this one.
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just making sure you have your orientation. The building immediately in front of you appears to be a bakery. Beyond that, the first of the huge water wheels. This one about 25 feet tall and nearly 15 feet in width. Its axle extends into buildings on the northern and southern side of the river, which you quickly come to presume are mills for grinding grain into flour. Goblins, hobgoblins, dwarves, humans, elves, half-orcs, ogres, even the occasional lizard man, and more go about their daily lives here. It was around this time that you notice the largest of the water wheels, standing at monstrous 80 feet tall, with paddles over 30 feet in width, is refusing to spin, despite being fed directly the most powerful current of the river. Sometimes it gives a sudden jolt with a great chunk. but you never witness it make an entire rotation. Further up the street is what appears to be a market, with multiple stalls surrounding a particularly large 3-story building. A large wooden sign hangs above the street which reads out, Rotbeard's Brewery and Open Market in about 8 different languages. To your right, you can hear the ringing of hammers, no doubt a smithy.
Well, this is strange.
Oh, Limrolt goes, you never been here?
No.
Never anywhere like this.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like that, especially the gate.
Yeah, well, luckily enough, a couple of gnomes came up with that a few years back, and it's pretty effective against giants, which is convenient, because no one's been able to live above ground at Karadmoren for about 1,000 years.
Wow. How did this place even come to be?
It's a long story. But the gist of it is, Clan Molnar fell into terrible debt, sold off a bunch of their border strongholds to the Farinwellians, which no dwarf could ever respect. He even shakes in anger, and he doesn't seem to be particularly aligned to anyone, anywhere. And he goes, so, many of the dwarves, mountain dwarves at that, left their halls and began to establish settlements along the rivers. And Molnar didn't like that, so they kept pushing them back, as well as the local beasties, he says, glancing around at the crowd of monster-like humanoids around him. He goes, oh, that made it difficult to get something really going in this area, but with the help of the Lightning Gate and Mayor Deneville's guidance, he spits on the ground, this place has become quite prosperous. And those water wheels, there's a whole industry. All this stone was cut not 10 years ago. The whole settlement practically springs up out of the ground.
Wow.
And this, by the way, is the shortest story this dwarf has ever told.
I believe that after the journey we've been on.
He must really like you, or really dislike you. I don't know which yet. We'll find out.
Where should we head to first?
Well, I'll be making my way to Rotbeard's, but you can go to the smithy or the market's gotta have something interesting.
What's with that water wheel? Why won't it turn?
Well, I don't know. Last time I was here, it was turning.
Curious. Well, lead the way, Leander. I have no particular feelings one way or another.
I think we should probably get rooms first, and then perhaps go to the market and see what's going on.
What are we doing here again? Are we just hoping to hide?
You said we were lost.
We were lost!
Arena, glancing about and taking in the surroundings, goes, well, we're trying to keep Clara safe. And I fear, though this isn't exactly what I'm used to, it's better than some giant hall.
Well, we do at some point have to meet with Clan Molnar, I believe. One of
The Order of Swords, goes Limrolt. Bastards.
Don't worry about it. You?
Fair enough.
Alright.
Limrolt makes his way down the street and says, I'm sure I'll meet up with you later. And you see, he goes and immediately begins pawning off the goods he has in the back of his cart, the feathers and furs, to a lizard woman who stands nearby. And if you look closely with a perception check...
Looking for another 20?
Amelia's not paying attention.
Yeah, I'm too taken in by this
Oh,
scene
same.
around
Yeah,
here.
obviously. Did you get above a 20, Jar?
No.
Did we all... I rolled a 3, you rolled a 3, you rolled a 3, you rolled a 4, you rolled a 1.
Too many
nothing
sights and
suspicious.
sounds.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're just so...
So
taken-
enamored with
Yeah,
this,
Is there any human type?
There are humans
Okay.
about, yes.
We're like, well, yeah.
I just look
Complete
at Leander.
opposite of the last place.
I look at Leander. I'm like, I've killed one of those. I've killed one of those.
So
Surprised they're not killing each other. To be honest.
Right.
You guys make your way towards the market and the tavern?
Yeah.
Alright. So, Rotbeard's Market has a variety of stalls lined up along the base of the tavern, as well as its sizable wooden patio. Many sell baked goods and furs, and a few have more exotic items. You know a tabaxi has various gems, jewelry, and jagaya in front of him, and there is a human with stacks of old tomes. There's also a dwarf with weapons and armor for sale. Mainly, when you glance upon it, you know none of this is of particularly exceptional quality, nor does it look to be magical by any means, so you just glance over that and continue along your way. Anyone want to check out any of those markets?
The tomes.
I'm starving. I don't know about you guys.
I actually want to talk to Clara.
Okay, sure.
I want to ask her if she prefers to take a rest after the journey.
Clara gives a nod and she goes, I'm not really used to walking so much. How do you do it?
You get used to it.
So I've heard.
I'm going to also ask Chantal if she minds staying with Clara.
Sure.
Yeah.
Alright. She seems intent on keeping watch.
So I want to go probably get her a room.
I was gonna say, if you're gonna go get a room, I will too. I'm gonna ask
Jar.
Jar to come with me.
Okay.
We'll follow along.
So you go to the man with the tomes.
Yes.
Okay. He's an elderly human behind the stall. It's a stall of books. And he sits atop a stool, hood drawn and eyes closed. Behind him, an old, gnarled staff leans against Rotbeard's brewery, and he seems to have drawn little attention from the crowd of prospective buyers. As you approach, he gives a few blinks, a slight nod. You're going to begin looking through the stacks of books? Probably an investigation.
Natural 1. I have a +7 too, so it's my highest skill.
You see children's stories, dwarvish children's stories, are the majority of the top stack of this book, or the top of the stacks of books. There's like 150 books on this stall, and you search through the top 20 before thinking that it's probably pretty mundane.
I look to him and say, "You have anything other than children's books?"
Here's a grin. For the right price.
Well, I have the right amount of gold, so show it to me.
You give me 300 and I'll show it to you, and then we'll talk about price.
I'll be back.
Here's a nod. I'll be here. You guys, you can see as you begin to move towards Rotbeard's in the front entrance, there's an early crowd gathering. With through the windows you can see the wide front doors are left invitingly open, and within you can smell tantalizing fresh meats and bread. A beautiful young brunette barmaid wearing a white and green dress gives Erlon a kind wave and smile as she serves a tray of drinks to a trio of dwarves. Come on in! You look exhausted. We have room enough for the lot of you, and fresh venison stew brewing in the back.
I pretty much just bolt to the nearest booth. Be like, I'm so sick of eating rabbits and deer. At least not well prepared.
Yeah.
As we kind of start to enter the tavern, are Bilberry and Zorn nearby?
They are.
I turn to them and I go, "You two, don't you even think of getting in any trouble, or you're gonna hear from me."
Zorn glances about and he goes, I'm particularly doubtful that there will be a noose around my neck just for being a half-orc here.
Bilberry,
Bilberry goes, I get it.
you'll be tossed up in those, whatever those things up on the walls are.
Bilberry looks wide-eyed up and he goes, is that probably true?
That's all.
Understood. Leader. Entering the warm, spacious common room of Rotbeard's brewery, you're swiftly escorted to a long, open table near one of 3 hearths. Interestingly enough, it appears as though nearly every item in this tavern was recently made, from the unscuffed, clean floorboards to the smooth wooden chairs which lack a single splinter, to the pewter plates and goblets which are set before you. The sounds of chatter and the clinking of dishes and silverware surrounds you. The entire party takes their seats at this table, with the exception of Gentel, who sits by the hearth for a few moments. You see Frolfin shake his head agreeably at the height of the tall ceilings and the size of his seat, which must have been crafted specifically to be comfortable for some of the larger races in this area. Your barmaiden, who introduces herself as Annalay, promises to return to your table in a moment as she runs off to seat a group of hobgoblins. Now that mid-afternoon has arrived and the sun sits high in the sky, you watch many newcomers arrive to the tavern within minutes, some entering from the streets and some coming from their rooms upstairs through doors beside the bar, all adding themselves to a growing crowd. There's a noticeable tenseness in their conversations as you overhear most are focusing on the waning strength of the lightning gate and the increasing frequency of giant attacks. At the bar, a huge Etten takes a seat and orders a drink. An eye on one of its two heads is patched over with a bandage. He seems preoccupied with speaking to an elderly-looking goblin who sits behind the bar. He's complaining about how difficult work as a market guard can be with his current lack of depth perception. The goblin, who you figure must be the titular Rotbeard, has, of course, a long white beard, as well as a bottle of some syrupy-looking liquid in hand, one particularly bulbous eye peering out from his wrinkled face, and a small set of shriveled-looking legs which dangle off his stool. Limrolt turns around, since he made his way into the tavern. He looks over towards the Etten and sticks to the corner of the tavern, but he begins to speak with an unsuspecting-looking patron, a human, with longer blonde hair which covers over his eyes. The pair agree on something, it seems, and walk out the back door of the tavern into an alley of sorts. Before Limrolt exits, he looks back towards the party, particularly Jar, gives a wink and a toothy grin.
Do I understand what he means by that, or
He's found one of those people he knows.
one of those people he knows?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just Jar will just kind of
Yeah.
nod to
acknowledge.
him and give a little wink back.
Alright. You also note that in a darker corner of the room sits a single lizard man. A gray hood is drawn over his head, and only his scaly green snout is visible from the shadows it casts over his face. The long, smooth staff with living green leaves stands propped up on the wall behind him, and he seems to be fidgeting about with a set of bird bones while muttering under his breath. As you scan the crowd, you are baffled to see a familiar face. A wide-eyed gnome dressed in worker's clothes. His hands are covered in black grease, and he has a tool belt around his waist with many strangely shaped screwdrivers and wrenches. None other than Singstalter, the inventor formerly found in the town of Loten in Sarengar. His expression is much more intense than you've seen him in the past. However, Singstalter notices your glances, cocks his head to the side for one moment and focuses on the party, and then upon seeing Gilroy, perks right up and runs over to the table. "Oh, wow! Friends, it's been so long! I'm so glad to see you! How did you wind up in Waterwheel? And last I heard, you were headed towards River's End. That's the total opposite direction."
Yes, well, we went and did there and got that. But what are you doing here? I'm glad to see you out of Loten. You took my advice.
First I made my way south, like I said, but then I hit the Farinwellian border around Venra, and they turned me right around. I was lost and alone for a while, but a traveling group of my own kind found me, just south of Frostpoint. They told me about Waterwheel, and all the great gnomish engineering happening here, and all the industry and progress. And since then, I made my way here, which was not the easiest of journeys. I secured a position in the Mechanics Union, maintaining the gemstone grinding engines just up the way. Sometimes they even let me tighten a loose bolt on the lightning gate. Oh, it's just marvelous. Of course, we're running at about 15% power at the moment. But then again, maybe you can help with that. Because otherwise, statistically, we'll all be dead next week. A bead of sweat trails down Singstalter's head as he rambles on. Here, I'll handle your room and board, and get your dinner, and join me up at Morgan's Paddle later tonight. there I can show you the problem and how it works. I'm quite sure Mayor Benevel would be very appreciative. She's a member of the Order of Swords, you know.
Is that right?
She is. I'm doubtful she went to her inauguration. But so the king says. She's a member.
Can your friend get me some mead while he's at it?
Yes! I don't think we've met.
Oh, hello, I'm Jar.
Singstalter, the inventor.
Oh, pleasure.
Melee, you seem to be in a much more agreeable mood than the last time we met.
A lot's happened.
I can see. Leander, armor's looking nice and shiny.
Can I ask you one question?
What's that?
What is the date?
What? It's 10... But...
It's okay,
What is
Sing
the
Sultan.
date?
How long has it been since you last saw us?
It must have been a month.
Okay.
A month
Alright,
and
it's
a
alright.
week.
Just checking something.
That's a good idea. Considered that. Yes, what did you say? The paddle? The great paddle?
Morgan's paddle.
Morgan's paddle.
That's what the locals call the big one.
Yes, what's happening there?
I'll have to show you. We're missing some key components.
It's very generous of you to get us room and board.
It's the least I can do for you, friends, making your way into town so unexpectedly. How have you been faring here along?
I had a family trouble, but it's worked itself out.
I'm glad to hear it.
He saved Sarengar. Don't let him fool you.
Wow. And to think I even know you guys. It seems so crazy. Anyway, he slides a bag of silver onto the table as he's been talking, which Bilberry leans really slowly over and drags to his side of the table. Then Bilberry and Zorn get up and go to the bar, securing rooms for you all with Singstalter silver. Bilberry comes back. Singstalter exits the tavern. He's called away by a group of similarly dressed and stressed-looking gnomes. Bilberry and Zorn get your rooms. Bilberry heads back to the table and pops up on his stool and puts himself up and goes, I think I'm going to take a look around town. I'll keep my hands out of trouble. I just want to see what this place is about.
That's a good idea, Bilberry. Don't let me down.
I won't.
Okay.
Gentelle taps her feet restlessly. She suggests, by looking out the window to the west, she goes, I think I'm going to those mountains. This Spider King sounds like it needs looking into. I want to find out what we're facing. Giants, yes, but what of the other dangers in the area? I think it's best that I go and gather what information I can, just to be on the safe side, and I'll report back here within a week.
Sounds good, Gentel.
Par for the course for you, I suppose.
Be
Just
safe.
contributing how I can.
Let us know.
I will. Annalay returns and serves you bowls of venison stew, meats, cheeses, breads, and ale, all on Singstalter's coin. And when she serves to you her lunch, she gives a nice brush on the shoulder and seems to be focusing in on you. Arena and Clara enjoy some of the venison stew together. Arena assures Clara that the party will keep Waterwheel safe. She goes, we're not going to let anyone get hurt. We got sent here for a reason. And she gives a knowing glance towards you, Leander.
So I guess, what time of day is it? Is it like starting the evening? Or?
It's making its way towards evening, yeah.
Alright. Yeah, I suppose Leander finishes up eating, and I think he asks the waitress, why isn't Clan Molnar allowed in the gates?
She, her face kind of drops with a bit of white, the blushness of it going away, and she goes, Clan Molnar is not a name you'll want to talk about too loudly around here. Not only did they lose all respect, but they've been merciless in attempting to keep down all other bastions of civilization in this area. And by keeping down, I mean crushing with force. You know of she whispers, the Karadmoren. The Karadmoren? The legendary dwarvish military?
Of course.
Yes.
You definitely have read on them.
Yeah.
They're the namesake of the kingdom.
Yeah.
And she goes, well, though Clan Molnar's influence is much diminished, the strength of their military is not.
See. Good to know.
Out of the frying pan and into the fire, it seems.
Troubles follow. Our troubles are everywhere.
Yes.
So,
Nonagus finishes up his venison stew, and then makes his way over towards you, Gilroy, and he goes, what exactly are your intentions now, Gilroy? I think I intend to get a map, find out where the hell we are exactly.
yeah, do I have any idea of, like, what direction I would have, the school would have been, and what direction we went?
Karadmoren is the northwestern chunk of Alaire.
Yep.
The school is not far from the border.
It's on the
between
western.
Ellenveer and Farrenwell.
Yeah.
So it would be southeast.
Right, just relative to where we came in, though, like, were we heading north from...
You were heading northwest,
Okay.
the opposite direction.
Well, knowing that Farrenwell is home to Nelferons, it may be best to plan something a little more deeper with Clara. So I may remain here for some time and, carry out the mission I was sent here for, though I do intend to make it back there sometime soon. I'll try not to tarry, but there are precautions to be taken.
For once, Nonagus places a hand on your shoulder, and he goes,
Mealy's gonna be like on alert when he touches
watching that?
Yeah, she doesn't trust him at all, and she's still. That's what she does.
Fair enough,
So,
yeah. Seeing that, he takes away. I will chart a course. Stay in contact, Gilroy.
I can do that. Tell them all is well there.
I shall. And you'll get your credit as promised.
Good.
After some time, an ogre dressed much like those at the gate approaches Frolfane. Frolfane kind of blocks up and seems a bit nervous at the interaction at first, but becomes much more relaxed when the ogre shoves an ogre-sized mug of ale in front of Frolfane, which he takes readily. And after quick introductions and a few bellowing laughs, you overhear the ogre say, this place is good for all sorts of people, and you look like a top-notch market guard to me. Frolfane looks towards you, Erlon, he goes, what do you think?
I think it's perfect for you, Frolfane.
I kind of like it here.
But you are your own man now.
He gives a wide smile, and he goes, I think I'll take the job.
You've earned it, my friend.
And they have a cheer, and he seems to be ingratiating himself with the local ogre population, who take him right in like a brother.
Erlon smiles like a proud father.
So I think we'll cut to break right here, seeing as we're about halfway through the session. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Continue watching through this break. There's much more adventure to come. A bit more in this tavern, and then we'll see exactly what the problems are in Waterwheel.
Yeah, I want to shout out and thanks to I Play in SWVT. I play in Southwest Vermont for subscribing to us. Means a lot. Helps keep this show rolling. Helps keep our comic and game shop doors open.
Absolutely.
And we so much appreciate it. We're also giving away a T-shirt at 200 followers.
200.
We're about 20 or so away. So if you haven't yet and you're enjoying the show,
make sure to throw us a follow.
Yeah, it'd be much appreciated.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, post the live episode, make sure to throw us a subscribe and a like, or maybe throw a comment if you're enjoying the adventure. And I hope you are. We'll be back at it in 5 minutes.